So today I'm a little facciata, right?
Facciata?
Is this?
Verklemmte?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure the difference, but
For mich.
is this Jewish enough, this show, for you?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet. Well, Jerry Seinfeld, welcome to Honestly.
Thank you, Barry. It's my pleasure to be here.
How's the coffee?
That's pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah. I have this new bit I'm doing about that coffee is the most important thing in a human's life. That when you get to your last thought before you move on to the next world, whatever it is, it will not be about your relationships or your accomplishments. Your last thought will be, that was good coffee.
So as
The rest was complicated, but I enjoyed the coffee.
So as I pass on to the world to come, or as you do, rather.
Yeah.
What coffee will you think of? What's your best coffee? Not this. What's your favorite?
It's great. I love any coffee, but you know, I don't know. Somehow when you're in like Italy, it seems like it tastes better, or France.
Okay, well, we're meeting at a particular moment in which Trump's probably going to be president, maybe.
I don't like that kind of talk.
Okay, Trump may or may not be president. Ivy League jihadis are sort of marching through campuses in the street.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not exactly a relaxing moment. And you go and make a movie about breakfast. You've just come out with this incredible movie called Unfrosted.
Unfrosted.
Why? Why a movie about breakfast and Pop-Tarts?
You know, one time I was doing a show. In the early days of comedy, we often would get gigs called nooners. Have you ever heard of a nooner?
I'm guessing it's in the middle of the day.
It's in the middle of the day. A lot of times it was a school of some kind. And of course, we would do them. And I remember doing one, and I was doing this bit, and I think it was about cereal. And this big woman stood up in the middle of the thing, and she says, "Why are you talking about this?" And I said, "Because I like to." And Paul Reiser, a good friend of mine, said to me years later, he says, "That's when I realized what a real comedian is." That's the answer to the question.
Because you wanted to.
Because I want to. That's why I made a Pop-Tart movie, because I want to.
Well, it has this amazing cast.
Yeah.
It's Amy Schumer, it's Bill Burr, it's Jim Gaffigan, it's Hugh Grant, who's amazing as Tony. It's so good.
Oh, thanks.
And it's just a total distraction from everything going on right now.
Yeah.
Which-
Well, I mean, when we started it,
You started in COVID.
We started in COVID because I couldn't take the sad faces. And in comedy, we hate that. We can't fix the world, but we just want to make a face happy, even just for a few minutes.
Yeah.
I was saying to a friend of mine today at breakfast that it's one of the greatest Jewish traditions. Why there's so many Jewish comedians and such a great tradition of comedy in the culture of Jewish people is, with all their crap that they had to live with, they used their incredible brains to make each other laugh. You do what you have to do and save a big part of your head to laugh, because that will get you through a lot of things.
Here's one thing I was thinking as I was watching the movie, laughing. My wife and I loved it. Is this. Like, I'm watching Walter Cronkite and I'm watching JFK, and I'm thinking, like, just this period of, like, early 60s, Right Stuff, Tom Wolfe. And obviously there were problems, like civil rights movement had yet to start, like a zillion. But the thing that was present at that time that I feel like isn't now is a sense of, like, one conversation.
Yes.
Like a common culture. And I was watching it and thinking, okay, on the one hand, maybe it's just Jerry Seinfeld wanting to have fun and enjoy himself and fulfill this many, 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 many years long development of his Pop-Tart bit.
Right.
But on the other hand, I couldn't help but wonder if part of it is maybe your own nostalgia for this time that feels like another planet, or at least another country.
Well, of course it does. But there's another element there that I think is the key element, and that is an agreed upon hierarchy, which I think is absolutely vaporized in today's moment.
Okay.
And I think that is why people lean on the horn and drive in the crazy way that they drive. Because we have no sense of hierarchy. And as humans, we don't really feel comfortable like that. So that is part of what I think is, if you want to talk about nostalgia, that's part of what makes that moment attractive looking back. And the other thing is, as a man, can I say that?
You sure you are? Are you?
I've always wanted to be.
I didn't ask your pronouns before we began.
I've always wanted to be a real man. I never made it. But I really thought when I was in that era, again, it was JFK, it was Muhammad Ali, it was Sean Connery, Howard Cosell. You can go all the way down there. That's a real man. I want to be like that someday. Well, no. I never really grew up. I mean, you don't want to as a comedian because it's a childish pursuit. But I miss a dominant masculinity. Yeah, I get the toxic thing. I get it. But still, I like a real man.
You said something the other day that I just stuck out to me. You said film doesn't occupy the pinnacle in the social cultural hierarchy, speaking of hierarchy, that it did for most of our lives. When a movie came out, if it was good, we all went to see it. We all discussed it. We quoted lines and scenes we liked. Now, and this is the part I really liked, we're walking through a fire hose of water just trying to see. Disorientation replaced the movie business. Everyone in show business every day, and we're here in LA, is going, what's going on? How do you do this? What are we supposed to do now? And so I wanted to put the question to you, like, what are we supposed to do now? Because I imagine, if they can get to you, young comedians are asking you that. And they're studying your old Wikipedia page, as I did for journalists I wanted to be like. And I realized they were like all irrelevant because the old stepping stones had evaporated. All of the old rules seemed to be gone. So what is the way forward?
Okay, let's talk about comedy and or movies. Luckily, mercifully, those rules are immutable. The rules of comedy are immutable. And the ecosystem of comedy is the most, not the most, but one of the most self-correcting ecosystems. I said to somebody the other day, comedy corrects itself. The only one that is way, way better would be the NFL. If you don't belong in the NFL and you are in the NFL, how long does it take them to notice you really don't belong on that field? Fast, right? And comedy is a slower, the wheels of justice grind slower, but they do turn.
So, same rules as always.
So the rules are either you're funny or I'm not getting in my car to go see this. When I'm young, I may want to see another person my age speak in terms that I prefer. When you're 26, that's very appealing. When you're 56, I got enough crap in my life. I am only going if I get the relief, to go back to the importance of the relief that humor gives you in life. Life without humor is a tough slog.
A drudge.
It's a drudge.
It's a drudge.
And who needs another drudge?
No one.
No one.
Let's talk about your work and the philosophy you have around your work. A decade ago, you did this interview with the New York Times, and you talked about how you didn't use computers. You used a legal pad and a Bic ballpoint pen. Is that still true?
It's still true, yes.
Why do you like to write like that?
It's nice.
Well, it's nice. Your hand doesn't hurt?
Sometimes.
Yeah, what do you do when it hurts?
I just go like that.
Okay. No carpal tunnel?
You know, when you write comedy, it's, forgive this pretentious analogy. You'll have to forgive me, but it's the best way to describe it. It's a little like poetry. You don't do a lot of writing. It's 90% thinking, 10% actual writing. But the feeling of a ballpoint pen on a thick yellow pad is very pleasant.
I use a yellow pad. That's
Right.
in part why I'm asking you. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a warm bath to me.
Do you have a special place that you like to write? Or a
Yes,
special
I do.
time of day?
Yes, I do. But I could write right here if you all would leave me alone.
We could.
And give me a flat surface. I'm good to go. This is the other thing I believe in. My daughter is a writer, and I really have hammered her very hard about this. There's no writer's block. There's no writer's block. There's lazy, there's scared, but there's no writer's block. Just sit down and realize you're mediocre, and you're going to have to put a lot of effort into this to make it good. That's what writing is.
Everything I've read about you makes me feel like if you were an animal,
Yeah.
you're a lone wolf. Do you agree with that?
If I wasn't, I'd have a rough go in this racket. It's a lone wolf racket, yeah. I'm only really comfortable with another stand-up comedian or alone.
You have compared the way you write jokes to mastering calligraphy or building, and I loved this because I had to look them up, tiny Japanese cricket cages. You said, that's it for me. Solitude and precision, refining a tiny thing for the sake of it. How do you exist in the world? Like, someone that likes to be alone and mastering something very much, is everything else that you do with other people a kind of suffering?
Yes.
Is it?
Thank you for...
I'm acknowledging you. I'm seeing you. So how do you do it? Life.
Well, I'm married. You know, my wife needs a human being, so I have to impersonate one.
Well, that was one of my questions. Like, I could imagine someone like that actually never getting married and have kids, but you did.
I did. Because of that woman I met. If I hadn't met Jessica, I don't think I could have done it.
Yeah.
I met someone that looked like, first of all, that I could never leave, and second, that looked like she could handle the nightmare that I was going to be.
But do you think that that sort of discipline and, I don't know, living a bourgeois life allows you to be risk-taking in your comedy?
Comedy, by definition, is risk-taking. Saying something that you think is funny, expecting it to get a laugh, that's a crazy bet to make.
Yeah.
All human life, all endeavor in human life is chaos. You find chaos and you try and create some order. Even if it's a chaotic order, it could be a pleasing chaos or a beautiful chaos, but it can't be as you find it. Here's one of my favorite jokes. I think it's a English, some pastor or vicar, one of those things, I don't know why those make jokes funnier when it's a vicar.
Vicars are funny.
Yeah. So he's got this beautiful garden, magnificent garden.
Yeah.
And this other guy walks up and he's admiring it. And he looks at the garden and he goes, boy, God's best work, huh? And the vicar looks up to him and says, you should have seen it when he was in charge of it. That's how I look at what you should do with your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, nature's, it's all beautiful, but not really until we do something with it. That's a worthwhile energy. Put it there. Make something, do something.
Okay. I want to talk about New York for a second because we're sitting in LA and it's gorgeous. How important is, you hate it. How important is place to your work? Like, how important is it for you? You said you could write here. You could probably write anywhere.
I was going with you when you said how important is place, and then you added to your work.
Yes.
Take to your work off, and I think you have something.
Jerry, let me start that over again.
Yeah.
How important is place?
Hugely essential. A cataclysmically relevant and potent to your psychophysical well-being and productiveness. Here's my analogy. One of my great friends and writers on the TV series was a guy named Larry Charles, and he dubbed me Analogy Lad. If I was a superhero, I would be Analogy Lad. Analogy Lad can't help you with anything, but he can tell you what your situation is like. So as Analogy Lad, to the importance of place, to me, the analogy is the tuning fork. You have a rhythm. You have a frequency. You have a vibration as a human being. Yours is very fast.
You sure?
Yours?
Yeah.
Yours is the highest they've measured so far.
What's yours?
Mine's a little lower.
Okay.
But still quite high. This is, I'm going crazy here because it's too relaxed.
It's too relaxed.
So when you are in the place that your frequency vibration matches the frequency vibration of the place, you feel comfortable. Okay,
well, you wrote this op-ed. Do you remember this?
I do.
In COVID. Mm-hmm. It was so much fun because you were taking aim at, well, one specific putz who doesn't need to be named, but you took aim
I like that handle.
Why not?
Specific putz.
Why do we need to name? But it was more broadly at all the people that had decamped for whether it was Austin or Miami or whatever. And you said, when I got my first apartment in Manhattan in the hot summer of 1976, there was no pooper scooper law and the streets were covered in dog shit. You said crap. I signed the rental agreement, walked outside, and my car had been towed. I still thought this is the greatest place I've ever been in my life. I love that so much. Why is it the best place?
Well, it's the clientele. You can't beat the clientele. The clientele that you interface with just visually, spatially, on the streets, they just get me going. I love them. They're funny looking. They're funny people. They're just what I like as people. That's of course the core of New York City, and they like it, and I like it, and I'm with them. It's like when I go to a Met game. We all love the Mets here. It's such a nice feeling. But New York City, to me, is a deep-rooted core of things I believe in, which is overcoming intensity, a lot of Jewish elements. You know, it's a very Jewish city. Jews thrive there. You know, when they came from Europe, or wherever they came from, I guess, and the Middle East, and they loved it because it's business, it's work, it's complexity, everything that Jews thrive on, you know? And I did, and I felt like the gift that New York was, I grew up on Long Island, and I was never comfortable there. It just, you know, I felt stifled for some reason. And I felt like New York took me and made me. I feel like it made me, I wanted to be this guy, you know? I wanted to be a New Yorker. Every New Yorker a lot of them come from other places wanting to be this type. And I feel like I travel the world showing people this is what New Yorkers are like. And if you want to see something unusual, it's something that's you don't see every day, you know, I will represent that.
How much material do you get just from like being around other people on the streets?
It's the attitude. Everybody's funny in New York.
Yeah.
So to be a comedian, you've got to really, you got to be even funnier. So you got to really bring it. So I'm going into a Met game the other day, and I get to the gate, and there's a woman at the gate, and I go, oh, damn, I forgot my phone. I go, the hell with it. What do I need the phone? I'm going to go watch the baseball game. She goes, go get your phone. Get your phone. I go, why? He goes, because your wife's going to call, and she's going to go, why didn't you answer? I kept calling you. And this is the lady that tears the ticket.
Yeah.
That's how funny she is. This is New York for me. That's a pinhead moment, of which there are thousands every week. And that's my lifeblood. I just want to be, I got to be around that.
Yeah. So how do you feel when you're in LA?
You know, LA is, I did great here. And I have all my friends are here, and comedy, there's a lot of comedy here. But it's not funny. It's not a funny town.
Do you also think it's a dumb town?
It's not dumb. It's just the things that it's focused on are dumb. They're not easy, but they're dumb. You know, all your stupid shows. Stop with your stupid shows. It's not that great. Stop overselling everything.
Everywhere you go, they're selling.
Yes, they just really exhaust themselves. I feel their what's the word?
Thirstiness.
Yes, the desp, as my kids would say.
Desp?
The desp.
I love that.
Yeah.
The desp. It's desp.
It's the desp. It's so thick.
It's unattractive.
It's unattractive. Don't be desp.
You know, talk to me if you could, and I understand you're grandfathered in, so it's a different thing, but like, you're around you're around comedians. Like, how much of the censoriousness has seeped into what you think comedians will talk about, will play with on stage? Is that a real thing, or is it not a real thing?
It's not a real thing.
Okay.
It's not a real thing.
Do you think punching down is a thing? Like, is that a real phenomenon?
No. I don't. Comedy is a extraordinarily simple binary outcome event. Is it funny or it isn't? And nobody cares really about anything else. They talk. There's a lot of talk. What we really hate is when someone does something that's not so funny and we didn't laugh, and now I'm going to criticize it because it didn't make me laugh. Today I'm fachada because the movie, but give me a couple days to calm down. You know, because when you spend years on something and it comes out, you get a little crazy. So I'm a little crazy today, but in a couple of days I'll be back to normal. And the only thing I want to read is the absolute worst reviews that the movie received, because there's nothing funnier to me than people complaining that I didn't laugh, because they want to laugh, and I relate to it. I get it. I think it's funny that you hated it because you wanted to laugh and you didn't laugh.
Okay, but you actually will read bad reviews.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
They're funny.
Have you always been like that?
Yes, it doesn't matter what you think of me. Why would I think that I'm going to make something that everyone will like? What sense does that make?
Okay, but
you got to be insane to think that.
But hold on. When you were just starting out, just in the very, very beginning,
Yeah.
did you feel that way, or is this a luxury of having the kind of success that you've had? That it's funny.
If you're built right,
Yes.
as a stand-up comic,
Yeah.
you don't give a flying what anybody thinks of me. I'm doing this gig, I'm getting my laughs, I'm getting the money, and I'm getting the hell out of here. And when your review comes out, I'm in another city doing the same thing. So there's no one opinion that has any value. Comedians live on its groupthink. Whatever the group says, that's the vote. We don't have to take a vote. The vote has been taken on that joke. You can hate it. It's still a great joke because the laugh is there. If you're funny, genuinely funny, none of these things are difficult to overcome. If you're kind of funny, then you got problems. But that's what it comes down to. It's the funny. The funny is it. If you talk and we laugh, we're all good. But if we don't laugh, or we're offended and don't laugh, whatever the reason, you know how many reasons there are to not laugh?
A lot.
A lot.
Let's talk about some of them.
And there's only one to laugh.
Which is that it's funny.
It's funny.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the things that make us not laugh right now. So, nice transition. You made Seinfeld during a period that I think will be remembered as like the golden age of American Jewish life. And
because anti-Semitism was a relic, seemingly a relic.
Yeah.
History books.
I think people felt like history had ended and the American Jewish experience was fundamentally singular and different from any other diaspora experience.
Right, of course.
And, well, I wonder, A, if you thought about the Jewishness of the show.
Never.
Okay. And do you think about it differently now? Now
Yes.
that period's over?
Yeah, well,
Or ended.
when first time I went to Israel after I had finished the show, and I saw the way they reacted to me, and I realized this is not just normal interaction of celebrity-public interface. This is different.
How?
I meant something, which I never knew. And it gave me a wonderful feeling like, oh, I didn't realize what I was doing had another value that I didn't know about. And I, of course, loved it.
You have always seemed just apolitical, I guess is the word, like above the fray.
Okay.
And, you know, that everything feels politicized right now.
Yeah.
And so you yourself have become politicized in a way.
Little bit, yeah.
Do you feel that?
I do.
You comfortable with it?
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. In fact, when we get protesters occasionally, I love to say to the audience, you know, I love that these young people, they're trying to get engaged with politics. We have to just correct their aim a little bit. You know, they don't seem to understand that as comedians, we really don't control anything.
Right,
You know?
right.
No one's really...
No, you're pulling the strings over the war in Gaza,
Yeah.
right? That's how I think of you.
Yeah.
You've done a bunch of shows, obviously. You're constantly doing shows. You did one in Syracuse in December that attracted protesters, and then they were chanting that you're complicit in genocide. Then when I gave this talk in February at the Y, there was this footage of you where they were calling you a genocide supporter and Nazi scum. And the thing that jumped out at me was not the things they were saying, of course, because they say it to anyone.
Yeah.
It's that you were smiling and waving and genuinely seemed to be enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
Were you?
Yeah.
Why?
It's so silly. It's like, you know, they wanna express this, you know, sincere, intense rage, but again, a little off target.
Right. Right.
Little off target. So that's, to me, comedic. You know.
You were in Israel.
Yes.
Since the war started. How was that trip?
The most powerful experience of my life.
Really?
I'm sure. Yeah.
Why?
You know, you just.
Are you thinking of someone in particular?
Sorry.
One thing that I've been thinking about is how a huge part of the way you think about comedy is how the audience never lies.
Right.
But what happens if a lot of people are wrong? In other words, I don't think Jews do well in an age of mobs. And I feel that right now in our culture, it's really easy to form mobs.
Yes, really easy.
And what's the difference between the audience never lying, but when does the audience kind of tip into the mob? Do you see where I'm going with that?
I do.
There's something,
Yeah.
but I really have been wanting to ask you about, like, for someone that relies on the truth telling of the audience to tell you whether or not something is funny, what does that same principle apply to a mass of people? You see what I mean?
Well, you can't act like we don't see this every day in many realms. Let's just talk politically, left and right. You're watching mobs. They're mobs. They're mobs believing their own crap, right?
Yeah.
That's what a political party is. We're going to make up a bunch of nonsense and we'll all agree to it, right? Right. Okay, let's print up some bumper stickers and get out there, kids. That's politics. So we're tribal animals. We're social creatures. We look for agreement and consensus. We're driven by agreement and consensus, and mob rule gives us comfort, gives us certainty.
Yeah.
It's all BS. It's all BS.
I think there's something like almost genetic about comedians that make them allergic to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think it is, like, where does that come from inside of you?
The thing that you are incredibly fortunate enough to have, if you spend your life in comedy and do well at it, the gift that you were given is you see through the surface of everything. Everything. Life itself. If you could hear the conversations that comedians have, you would feel like you took the most cleansing rain shower of your life, because it is so peeled away of the surfaces and the gauzy, phony planes of existence that most people deal with and on. And comedians just chuck it all. The residue is your comedy product and your act, and hopefully they laugh at it. They don't even realize what they're laughing at is I'm seeing into your life in a way you can't even see it, you know? So if you heard comedy conversation, the profanity of it, the misanthropy of it, you know, I think you'd find it incredibly refreshing. And sadly, I never hear it anyplace else.
Never.
No. Everybody else is like 8 layers of fake, you know, cream and veneers
Totally.
of you know, waterproof wood coating, you know. That you're on that, you know. That's where most people live. That's why they come to see a comedian. How do they know these things?
The other night when I saw you, you said something that made me laugh as I was thinking about it later, which is I was like, how are you? And you're like, I'm done. I'm dead. Like, you're not really even looking at a person. Like, I'm almost 70, I'm dead. I could die and it's fine. do you feel that way?
Of course.
Okay, but how
This is what I'm getting at.
But you've kids.
I did great by my kids. I was a
Yeah.
good dad.
Yeah.
And they feel loved forever.
That's it.
Sure. So we're cool.
But it could end tomorrow.
Right now, before I get out of this chair.
I don't want it to.
I don't either. But
But
You
I
see,
gotta say, Jerry, you
this
love
is-
life.
I do. I also love death. I have so much death in my act, I have to edit some of it out because it's just too much.
Okay, you're a very happy person that hates everything. What do you hate the most? Like,
What do I hate the most? Boredom.
how can you ever be bored?
Because I've struggled to have conversations with people that want to talk about things that are on the surface.
What do you do when you're in that situation?
Drink.
Or do you ever just like be like, go right to death or go right to something real?
I start asking them, what do you weigh?
Yeah.
You know.
What do you weigh? Are you still in love?
Yeah.
Are you on Ozempic?
Right.
The natural question.
Yeah.
Okay, we're doing a lightning round. Ready?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, last 2 minutes. Lightning round with Jerry Seinfeld. Favorite comedian of all time?
Robert Klein.
Zabar's or Fairway?
Zabar's.
Woody Allen, innocent or guilty?
Don't care.
Favorite baseball player?
Tommy Agee, 1969 Mets.
Best place to perform for you?
Wherever the next gig is.
Best borough of New York?
Manhattan.
Favorite Seinfeld episode?
The marine biologist. Kramer hits the golf ball into the blowhole of the whale.
Favorite flavor of Pop-Tart?
Brown sugar cinnamon.
Mine too. And you said you didn't eat a salad until you were 40, but
That's
you
right.
look great. So do you eat salads now?
Now I do, yes.
Do you have a workout routine?
I do.
What's the most important thing your parents taught you?
Be independent.
Who's your hero?
Marcus Aurelius.
Why?
Perspective. The most important single word in life.
Jerry Seinfeld, it's been a total pleasure. Thanks for coming in, honestly.
Thank you. It was a treat.
So much fun! Oh my God.
Oh my
what
God.
a pleasure. Oh, you're so wonderful.